And in the beginning, he drove a horse and team, a wagon and 4 horses. And towards the end of his life, he drove a state-of-the-art, air-conditioned semi-trailer. But still, he did the same thing for his whole life. The same mundane grind, every day, every week, every month, every year, for his whole life long. Worked for the same company, the same location, the same job. I couldn't imagine that. I mean, no wonder he was angry. Huh? And by the time he got to retirement age, he had emphysema, he had back trouble, he had so many problems, and he couldn't enjoy life. So here he was, after all this work, he did so faithfully for his whole life, he finally gets to the end, and he's finished. He can't enjoy life. His body is ruined, he's old, his wife is getting old, and she has cancer or something, and whatever. Oh, and it's just tragedy. This material life, the story of everyone's life in the material world is a tragedy. It all ends in death. Everyone, and we see the seeds of a person's fall in the beginning of their life, and how their attitude and how their ambition and everything consumes them. And then they spend their life actually preparing their demise, setting up their fall and their death. This happens to everyone. So I determined very early on in life that I was going to, first of all, pursue the path of knowledge, and then the path of knowledge led to the path of spiritual life, and then the path of spiritual life led to the path of devotional service. And now, 50 years later, 60 years later, here we are. And this is good. This is good. Because even though, yes, this body will dwindle and die, that we have 100% certainty of that. It may happen quickly or it may happen slowly. We don't know. That's up to Krishna. But we do know that, the cause of death on our birth certificate is going to be, too much chanting, too much preaching. Preached himself to death, loved himself to death, loved Krishna. So that we want. Everyone is going to die. And everyone in their daily activities is preparing their cause of death. So we should then sacrifice our life and die for the highest cause, which is given in this verse. Hearing and chanting about the wonderful name, form, pastimes, and so on of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the greatest cause. We're going to have to give up our life anyway. We're going to have to die. We're going to have to sacrifice our life somehow to something. So let's sacrifice it for the highest cause, the greatest result. And then we'll enjoy that in our next life, or even in this life. If we attain self-realization in this life, then we will enjoy the self within ourself. The super soul. You see? This is the aim of life. And this is given in all Vedic literatures. This is given in the esoteric teaching of the Vedas. And even in the mundane Vedic literatures, everything is there to support it. For example, we were just looking at Vastu Shastra. Vastu Shastra tells you how to set up your home so that everything is auspicious. Why? So that you can enjoy the material world? No. So that you can make spiritual advancement. So that you can approach the supreme destination. So that you can execute the actual purpose of the Vedas, which is this spiritual life. So we have to approach a devotee who is in the same mood, the same service mood as ourselves, but who is more advanced and who is better situated in this devotional service. And by following in their footsteps, then we learn the art. You can read books, and there's many books we have for you to read. But to actually see how to put these things into practice requires association. And we offer that association to people who have no material attachments in this world. And we find that in interviewing and going through various people who would like to come and stay with us, we find that if we accept the association of people with material attachments, it always leads to suffering. We found this by many years of experience. So we're saying, don't accept this suffering. Don't accept material attachments. Don't accept material relationships, because material relationships based on a false premise that I am this body. And due to some bodily designation, that this body comes from this country or this family or this occupation or a certain quality or designation of the body, therefore I am related to this other person in such and such a way. Maybe through a family relation or through occupational relation or through political or through religious designation of some kind. But all these designations are false. They're temporary. Try to understand. They're part of the illusion. They will go away along with the body. And then what? You see? We're going to lose that relationship anyway. Ultimately, at the end of this body, if not before. So why should we maintain something? Why should we put energy into something that we know we're going to lose anyway? Why don't we put our energy into cultivating a relationship that's eternal, that's perfect, that will actually satisfy our hearts? Why should we sign up for suffering and pain by cultivating these mundane relationships? They don't lead anywhere. They don't go anywhere. They're dead end. They're just a temporary, like a palliative is the word for it. It's one of those $2 words again. A palliative is something that gives us temporary satisfaction, but doesn't really solve the underlying problem. Like television, for example. People have all this leisure time. And so what do? They plunk down on the couch and watch television. Well, that's not a very constructive use of their time. But it saves them from having to deal with the real issues of life. It saves them from having to sit in a room all alone, silently, and look at their life and look at the choices that they've made and try to understand how they messed up and how they went wrong. This is very painful, but it's absolutely necessary if we're going to advance in life. We have to think over these things. Take a look at our life. Look at the choices we've made. Look at the habits that we've developed with the repetition of many, many experiences and incidents. Look at the impressions that they have generated in our minds and which we consequently have used to create our expectations of our future. Because we find that our expectation of our future is going to be very similar to our past. Well, what else do we have to base it on? You see? But if we can get knowledge from another source, if we can get knowledge from a higher source, a higher intelligence, greater than human, that gives us a different way to look at the world, then we can form a different set of expectations that is actually more realistic in terms of the actual potential of the human being, the actual goal of the human spirit, the actual nature of human intelligence. And that's the esoteric teaching of the Vedas. This esoteric teaching is not of human origin. You look at the poetry, you look at the Sanskrit, you look at the sheer volume of material and its wonderful consistency of style and content. And the way one little piece over here in this obscure scripture fulfills this need over here in this other obscure scripture. answers some question that, you're reading through this like Mahabharata, and somebody does something and you say, why did they do that? Or why did he say this? Or why did that happen? And then a couple of years later, you're reading this other esoteric book, and you come on a passage that perfectly explains what happened, or why that was said, or what happened. You go, wow, this philosophy is so perfect. Huh? The thing that it is, it's not designed for lazy people. It's not like the school books. When you go to school, the teachers arrange everything in like a certain progression of subjects. Not because they want you to learn anything, but because they want to force you to go through this, then that, then that, then that. So you learn how to be obedient.